Start recording. Cool. Share that screen. Share it. Bam. Are we ready to keep going?
I am.
Cool. Everyone ready?
Yep, let's do it.
So now what's the next step? We know that we're getting our hogs. How do we, I realize that we use pigs here and hogs here. That's fucked up. How do we, what do we want to do with the hogs now that we have them?
Set them as state.
Beautiful. How am I going to do that?
I think it's this dot set state.
Okay. What next? What always goes inside of set state? Always.
Well, I'm pretty sure it's the all pigs object, which is the current state, I guess is the way to say that.
So all that I'm going to say is whenever you use set state, you need to have these curly brackets. And I think technically what it is it's like an object that you're using to index your state. I don't know exactly how it works under the hood, but you always need these curly brackets when you're doing this dot set state. So now it's like what you're saying is I'm going to set some key to some value. So now what is the new value that I'm going to have? And by the way, what is the rule with state that you're never, what's a big no-no with state?
Don't directly manipulate it.
Mutate is the word. But yeah, basically same concept. So can anyone explain to me what mutating is and what the alternative to like maybe mutating is? All right, so let's think of an array or something like that, right? So let's say I have an array. We're going to call my array equals 1, 2, 3. Cool. If I say, this doesn't even need to be JavaScript code. Let's just pretend like this is Ruby or something like that, right? Doesn't really matter. If I say array dot pop, right? What does that do?
Doesn't it take off the last index there?
Yep. So what I'm saying is this is an action that takes this variable called array and it mutates it into being something different. So it's changing it right there. You're changing what array is right there. What's a way to maybe non-mutatively do the same thing? So what if I said something like, okay, array equals 1, 2. Now I just did the same I made the same product, but now instead of actually cutting a term off, I just declared it as a new value. So it's not mutative anymore. Does that make sense? And we want to do the same thing with our state. So that's why, let's say I want to cut a term off of state. I can't just be like this dot state dot pop. I have to say, okay, this dot state is actually equal to a whole new thing. So that's just maybe worth talking about for a second. And we're going to explain why that matters right now. So here we have, we're going to want to change hogs, right? All pigs, right? So now what am I going to write here?
All pigs, response, or hogs.
Mm-hmm. All pigs, and then, yeah, You are correct. Beautiful. Now let me just reformat this for a second, just so maybe you could think about it a few different ways so you don't forget it. But it's like, here you have this dot set state, right? And you're just setting that state on like a key value pair. That's it. It's just a key value pair wrapped in curly brackets. So I don't know if this format helps you remember it, but the way that I think looks best is when you do it here. Yeah. Cool. So now, first of all, let's see if that worked. How would I know if this worked right?
If you go to components in the console or dev tool area, you can see what the state is.
Where would this be safe? Which component?
Yeah.
We got some pigs. Congratulations, guys. We got some motherfucking pigs. I'm proud of y'all. Great. So what's the next step? Where do we want to display these pigs?
In the pigs container?
Yep. So how would I do that?
We'll need to map through all the pigs and give them a pigs container component, or put them inside of a pigs container component.
Do I need to map through all the pigs to send them into pigs container? Or can I just send them into pigs container the way they are?
Yeah, can you do all pigs equals this dot state dot all pigs?
Yep, right here.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Oh, whoops. That is Vue fucking me up. Who can explain why I have to have these curly brackets around what I have here?
Because you're using JavaScript inside of.
Inside of the HTML. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. The way that I remember it for some reason is I think of all of this stuff as JSX. It's like it's like React's templating language. And then I kind of think of these as escapes. Like you know how like when you're doing interpolation in JavaScript, it's like you have like an escape thing that you write where it's like $, curly brackets. That's kind of like what I think about here. It's like escape, and then here's how you write your variables. So I don't know if that helps anybody else, but that's how I internalize that. But cool. And now when I look at my all pigs here, if I look at my pigs container, I mean, all pigs got passed in. Cool. So now let's get some fucking pigs up here, right? So let's make a pig card. Cool. I need to make sure I save these on my desktop. Sorry, I just wanted to make sure that I have the recorded lesson here. Great. So who can help me out on what I'm going to do next? Anybody?
Is this where we would have to do the map then?
Right. So yeah, and I think that it's good to take that logic and maybe like use your components to their advantage for organization, right? So if I'm doing my pigs container, why don't I just do some of that here, right? And yeah, in theory, we could even, well, yeah, let's do it like this for now. But we could actually, we're gonna maybe make it a little more advanced in a second. But let's, did they give us a pig card thing here? They didn't give us a card.
Yeah, they did.
It did? Where?
Oh no, my bad. My bad. I thought you were talking about something else.
dare you.
I thought you were talking
No, I'm just kidding. That's fine. Okay, so first let's start the basic way. We need to take these props and make some fucking pigs, right? So now we're gonna go props. Well, we need to just make a function, right? So I'm trying to just be a little bit more eloquent in how I'm phrasing stuff. First of all, let's structure our HTML. So we're obviously not going to just want this title here, right? We're probably going to want, let's make a section, which a section is just a regular HTML element. And then just for good practice, we're going to give it a class name of like pigs. First, we're going to call it a pig container because we could probably do some styling. And then we could also maybe give it another class name of like all pigs container. Cool. Now we got the section. Whoops. Great. So would you guys agree that what we're going to need is something that's going to look like this, right? We're going to need div, and then we're going to need like H1 or H3. Oh, I can't use Emmet abbreviations here. H3, like pig name. And then we're going to have like maybe
Would
like,
we not want to do that in a pig card?
well, it would be great to do in a pig card, but we just don't have a pig card right now. So we're going to talk about why we might make one in a second. But first, let's get to that. You know, pig prop 1. You get the idea, though. It's going to look something like this. Great. And there's going to be an image in there, an image tag. Cool. Great. So you get that concept of this is, and then if we look at this, this will be like one card. And then we're going to have a bunch of these divs. You guys understand why the HTML would be structured that way? Just as far as like, it would kind of be like just like a Rick and Morty JavaScript thing where it's like, okay, all I want is some cards. And to do that, I'm going to have a div, and I'm going to call that div like pig card or something like that. And then I'm going to have a bunch of them and make this a flex box or something like that. So they all list there. Is that something y'all understand and are pretty comfortable with?
Makes sense to me.
Cool. So now let's talk about how we're actually going to get those. Well, what we're going to do is we're going to create a function. Whoops. Oh, that's view stuff again. So let's just say that we have a function and we're going to call it make some pig cards. And then we got to invoke that function. Right? Cool. Make some pig cards is not defined. No shit, because I haven't defined it yet, right? So first of all, does this have to be anything? One of the big things that confuses a lot of people is this. And when I say this, I literally mean this. Do I need to have this in here? Is that necessary?
Only if it was a class component. I think.
Beautiful. I'm glad that you said that. Exactly. So if this was a class component, you basically got to put this in front of everything. So even if you're calling props, you have to say this dot props dot whatever. You'd have to say this dot state dot whatever. Which let's not worry about state in that regard for a whole nother reason. If I'm calling a function, I have to say this dot function name, you know, something like that. But we don't need this because it's just a function. It's just a functional component. So let's call this function make some pig cards. Ooh. And are you all familiar with your ES6 syntax?
Sorta.
So I would say for now, it's totally fine and totally healthy to just be like, okay, if I'm gonna do ES6 syntax, I think Mod 4 Code Challenge is like right around when I learned ES6 syntax, like, and actually committed it to memory. But the concept here is it's just a different way of writing a function. This would be analogous to function, make some pig cards. I spelled function wrong, but just pretend I didn't. And then bam. Same exact thing. Just looks a little different. Cool. So now we have, let's make some pig cards. Hopefully that didn't confuse anybody. And what I'm going to say is, somebody help me out here. Maybe let's,
would it not be better practice to have a component that's just called pig card?
that would be better practice, but let's make this function here first. And you would still need to do this anyways, right? Because we'll go through that process. But for now, what I want you to do is let's make the cards in this function, and then we'll refactor it, which is how I would do it if I was actually doing it anyways. But I really like where your head is at. So where would be a good starting point? First of all, does this need an argument?
We need a pig.
So actually, rather than taking in a pig, we're actually just going to call on whatever all the props is. So we actually don't need an argument here because props is defined. Since props is an argument, it's defined all there. So that means that if all my pigs are coming from my props, I should be able to call all my pigs from that props argument, right? So if I have pigs container and then my props are all pigs, I should be able to access that just by saying like props dot all pigs, right? And we can just test that, right? Let's say, just to test, right? And there we go. So we're getting all those pigs there. We were able to console on them, right? Cool. So that means that, what can I do next? I can iterate over all those already. I'm already good to go to iterate over them. So how would I do that? How would one of you guys go about iterating over these pigs?
Map,
Why map?
so that we can make a new, like we have a result, but it hasn't messed with the original props.
Great. Yep. So just because this is React, just like anything else, I can return code just like this. So the way that I want you guys to think about it is that if I have, what is all pigs? All pigs right now is an array of objects, right? Right? So if I take that array of objects and map over it, all that I do is turn it into an array of a bunch of other shit, right? So that means I can say an array of, let's say, maybe an element. Let's say for each of them I return H1. Cool. So that means that now maybe I can return something like this. Whoops. Alt Shift. Oh my gosh. I have like shortcuts on my computer that I'm not quite good at using yet. So now this could be what I transform it into, except for before, which I just made it 3, whatever. But you guys get the idea. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're just saying, okay, let's take each of these objects and turn it into a new element. And this is what we want to return. Cool. So now I could say something, someone help me out with what I would write here. So what's the first thing that goes into a map?
The singular version.
Yeah, it's the thing that I'm going to iterate over. Yep. And then what goes into it? Did I fuck something up? No, that should be good. Well, we want to make a card, right, for each pig, right? So let's go ahead and just, for now, and this is, by the way, Hannah, is where we would worry about a card, is what I would say. So let's say I have my div here. Let's just give it a class name for good practice. Let's call it pig card, right? And then what's going to go inside of our pig card? Maybe like, let's just start with a name, but maybe for a reference, we can go ahead and go to our Porker data and we can just copy all this so we have a reference of like what we're looking at. I like to do that sometimes. Maybe bam. Those are going to be the things that we can call. Except for in my API, I called this that. Just FYI. I figured it'd be easier to work with. Great. So what we want to do is maybe we want to list all this stuff. So let's go. Let's do an H3 for name. And a lot of this work is done for you on the code challenge, but I promise you that if you've done it yourself, then it's going to be so much easier to interpret the code challenge. I promise you. And you're actually going to be like, oh, this is nice. And then we can give all these things class names so we know how to work with them. Let's call it like card name. And then here we can maybe call it, let's see, name is going to be what? What's going to go here?
You have to have the curly brackets and pig.name. Or yes, name.
Sorry, it auto-corrected to some weird shit. Nope. Big dot name. Beautiful. Cool. What can I do next? What do we think specialty should be? Let's do an image. Let's do an image in the card. That should probably go up here, right? Image is going to equal, what is the way to do image? It's src equals, is it source or is it h? It's href. Equals.
No, you got it. It's src equals, and then you also React forces you to do an alt as well.
Yep.
And it's a single line element.
Cool. Pix image. So the source is going to, what's going to go, what is my source going to be for that image? Oh, I forgot to mention that I added an image thing there. So in the API, the image is there. So it should be like image and then image URL. So that's what would go in there. I apologize. That's in the API. I added it like right before class, right before this lesson. So this is where you would type in pig.image. Cool. By the way, is anybody having trouble with the Rails app I made? What did I fuck up here?
So far, it's working for me.
Cool. I messed up something here, and I'm not sure what it is. Oh, it's just because I haven't closed this image tag. Great. Beautiful. Image doesn't need to close. This image.
Yeah, self-closing.
Okay. I don't know why it's rendering an error. It must be some weird thing I have going on.
Yeah, you got to close it with a forward slash or whatever, but you can keep it on a single line.
Is that a React thing?
No.
Yeah, just like any other JSX single line tag. Yeah, you got to close it with a forward slash.
Okay. Whoa. Read prototype of undefined. Something wrong here. Let's see. Oh. It's because you have to return this. So in a map, you have to return, well, there's implicit returns, but whenever you use this curly bracket in like any of your applicatives, you have to return it. So that's what the error is right now. Let's do that. And that. Shoot. Beautiful. See if that works. Something fucked up. Not that. Interesting. I'm wondering what I fucked up.
I don't have return.
Oh, it's this. I don't know what that was. I accidentally must have. There we go.
Oh, nice.
I guess the picks didn't work. Now that makes me curious on if these links are working. I'm wondering if it is href. Well, I don't think it would be href. I thought it was source. I don't know. Whatever it is, those images are not working. I think maybe because I got the link to the URL and not the link to the. Yeah, that'd be a pain in the butt too. Yeah, that's the problem. I put the wrong links in there. So these images are not going to work. Sorry, guys. If anyone wants to fix my API, be my guest. But yeah. So right now we'll just have to work with this, which is fine. It's all we really need for now. We don't need to get too in depth on what's going on here. But let's go ahead and also in theirs they have a button. So let's just make it a button here, and we're just gonna say Jesus freaking holy. Great. Now we have a delete button. Creatively named. Can I just point out real quick that Murder Sobriety sounds like a great name for a metal band. Sorry. Okay. So for now, all we'll work with is, unless you guys want to do other stuff, we could do name and maybe like weight. So how would I add weight here? Let's do it in a P element. What would I add here to add weight?
Curly brackets and pig dot weight.
Beautiful. See if it worked. Great, it's working. Cool. These buttons don't do anything, which is great because I haven't told them to do anything. Perfect. So now let's go back to what Hannah was saying before. I have all this code here. What if I want to reuse that? What if I want to use a card at another point in time? Like I made this thing called the pig card. Why don't I just make a whole component for that? Okay, let's do that. So let's think about how that process is going to go. First, what do we got to do? We got to make a new file, right?
Would that go in components or containers?
Oh, it don't matter. If you want to put it in components, we could do either way. Which you guys choose.
Oh yeah, no, it should definitely be components because it's not going to contain anything else. Like this is one of the components that you bring into the other containers.
Okay, I wasn't sure like how that worked because I guess I was thinking, okay, well technically it contains a bunch of elements, but I think you're probably right. Thank you for that. So what are we going to call it? Let's call it pig card. What extension are pig card? What extension is our pig card going to be?
.js.
Beautiful. Oh, I made it .jd. Don't make it .d. Beautiful. So what are we going to start with? Great. Then we're going to, what is this going to be, a class or a function? Daniel, class or function?
I think in the code challenge it was a class, but it makes more sense to be a function.
Cool. Let's make it a function. Let's do it. If you want to do one as a class, we can do that. Just so that way, maybe we have some practice with that. Extends React dot component. We do that. I don't know. Would it help you to maybe do one as a class?
Definitely.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we're just going to call it a class, even though it's not going to have any state or anything like that. That's just what we're going to call it for now. So we're going to say, cool. So what do all class components need to have?
Render.
And I think render is a function, right? Like, so render is a function, so you have to call it like a function. And something I want to point out that I was talking to Daniel about last night is when you're on a class, so normally when you write a function, you have to write it something like this, right? Const, or not const, you have to be like function name, and then you invoke that, and then you do that, right? So you need this key called function because it's kind of like, it's almost like you're declaring a variable or something like that. You need a way to save what that function is. The thing is that when you're on a class, the function that you're creating, I can't, oh, sorry. Thank you, I appreciate it. Zoe, out of here. Sorry, guys. Other one. I had to dump out all my laundry so it didn't get creased. So when you're on a class, I think a helpful way to think about it is that the thing that this function is bound to, kind of like the thing that's like making your computer remember that the function is there, is actually the class itself. You could think about the fact that it's actually bound to there. I don't know if that helps you guys remember that. And that's why if I call a function here, and then I have to call on that function again, like let's say I need to call, let's call this my function. I think it'll be easier, right? So let's say I need to call my function. Well, I have to write, I can't just write my function and then invoke it. That doesn't work, it breaks. So what you actually need is this dot my function, right? And that invoke works. I don't know why it's not working right now, but that's.
Don't you have to wrap it in curly braces?
No, well, it's not inside of the render or the return in the render more specifically. But I just want you to know that that's why, that's sort of like why you have to use this all the time. And it's also why you're declaring your function in a weird way here, right? Like if you think about it, you've always written functions like this. So how come you don't need that function there? That's why, if that makes sense. So anyways, we have our card. Oh, I never actually specified a name on this. So we're gonna call it pig card extends react.component. What am I fucking up here? Is this supposed to be capital? No. You messing up something. Did it just end and restart?
I think you may have lagged out.
No, I think it restarted. I think it ended and then restarted. Because hopefully it recorded. I don't know.
Mine shows recording and that there's 4 minutes left, but it stopped sharing your screen.
Oh, so maybe it did just lag out. Sorry about that, guys.
Good.
Okay.
Cool. So now we have our component here. It's running an error here. If I hover over that, it says because it should have a return statement because the render has to have a return statement. So return here, bam. So what are we going to return here? So a really good starting place would be to just take this and copy it, right? Bam. We'll worry about that later. Great. Bam. Now the problem is, fuck, what is pig? We don't know what pig is here. So how are we going to get pig into this card?
Props.
Props. So we need to do something like this dot props dot pig dot image, right? Because if we think about it, we're only going to send one pig to a card, right? So since we're only sending one pig to a card, then our props, it should really only be like one pig. So we haven't actually created this yet. We're going to do that in a second. So, but for now, let's leave it like that. I'm also going to show you a cleaner way of writing this in a bit. So now what we have to do is here, we're going to say for each pig, we're going to say what? What's going to go inside of here? Somebody help me out.
The pig card, I can't remember exactly how though.
Okay, so, well, we know that it's going to be a pig card, right? So what's that going to look like?
Component, yeah, pig card.
Great.
And then you'll probably pass in.
So first, let's get rid of this error, right? Cool, pig card is not defined. Import, what?
Pig card.
From,
Pig card. I think it'll just be dot slash. No, it'll be dot dot slash components slash pig card.
beautiful. Great. And how would I pass in what a pig is? It's going to be way easier than you think it is.
Is it just pig equals pig?
Literally.
Okay.
Great. Now let's see if that works. Let's see if we set it up right on the other side. And hey, look at that. It works. So now now that we kind of see how we passed it in from this end, let's reiterate what we did inside of the pig card. Okay. So inside of the pig card, if you look in here, right, what I'm saying is I'm passing in a prop. I'm calling that prop pig. So inside of a class component, I can't just say props.pig. I have to say this.props.pig, right? Because it's inside of a class component. I'm going to show you guys something cool though. So above your return and inside of your render, you can sort of, you can clean up your variable names. So let's say I have this thing called this.props, right? Before we do that, I'm actually going to show you some stuff inside of just a node IRB for a second.
The call's going to end in less than a minute.
Okay, I'm just going to
FYI.
stop it now. I'll be back in a second.